Oh, everything we've just had, the recording went off. So let's, the recording's back on, and let me
Okay,
try to grab Laura. Okay.
great. Yeah, so yeah, first I'd like to open it up to the committee members and board members for questions. I have a few, just off the bat here. First, no, thank you again for taking the time to come here and provide this very thorough presentation. I guess, just the main question, and it kind of prompted our asking you and DST to come in to talk about this proposal is like how is how did it come to be that all this testing and analysis and the kind of the triggering of the brownfield cleanup program it just happened recently and not before basically the building was constructed.
So I mentioned that when they started doing they demolished the old building and they started doing the construction of the new building in, I think, 2008. And when they were excavating, they found these petroleum tanks. They reported a spill, and under the spill program, we're generally looking for petroleum. We don't do a full suite of analyses on a spill. If we know it's petroleum, that's what we're looking for. For better or for worse, the initial analyses for volatile organics was limited to the petroleum VOCs, and that's why this may have gotten missed in that earlier investigation. They were looking for petroleum, and that's what they found.
Well, how was it discovered later on that the more progressive contamination?
So I don't know exactly how or when the consultants started doing a larger suite of analyses, but that's when they found the chlorinated solvents is when they said, wait a second, this is not just petroleum, and our spill program is not really geared to deal with anything other than petroleum, any hazardous chemicals. And that's when it got, punted over to me, and then I reached out to the consultant, and we talked about moving them into the brownfield program.
Okay. Yeah, it's just, and the other thing is, I guess, how is this, are there going to be recovery wells inside the building? How, just questions about the safety of the residents, vapor intrusion, those sort of things. If you could, address those issues, right?
So there are recovery wells in the building right now. They're in the basement, which is a parking garage. The parking garage is a ventilated structure by city code. The wells themselves have sealed caps on them, so they're only opened, however frequently the consultant goes there and engages the wells, and then they're resealed. So we did do indoor air sampling in the garage. Not surprisingly, we found, carbon monoxide and other things like that, but we really did not see any indoor air impacts from the contaminants that we're looking for that are underground. And there is a passive subslab depressurization system beneath the slab as well. So that is also venting vapor from underneath the building right now.
Okay. All right. Do any other members of the committee or the board have questions?
Yeah, this is Willis, real quick. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Jane. Yeah, just to follow up on that question, you mentioned you did testing in the garage. I assume you did it throughout the building as well in people's residential units?
We did not. The health department requires the indoor air sampling on the lowest level of the building, which is where we expect the highest concentrations to be. Again, we did not find anything in the lowest level of the building in the indoor air that would prompt us to go to upper levels of the building. The lower level of the building, as I said, is a parking garage. It's a ventilated parking garage, so we did the subslab and indoor air samples on that level.
get that. It seems like it would still be prudent. Like, if I were living in that building, I'd be pretty concerned, and would want to have sampling to know that my indoor air is not subject to vapor intrusion. So I'm wondering if that's something that could be. Well, here the second part of my question is what, and maybe this is a question for Department of Health, but what has the engagement been with for the people that live within the building? I'm assuming that everyone living there moved in without any knowledge that this was, massively contaminated, and if there's people raising kids and whatnot, it's pretty scary stuff. So, what's the process for those residents being informed and engaged, and also sort of what assurances or safety or compensation do they have for the building owner of buying into a place that's so contaminated?
Well, so in the first instance, the building was occupied, prior to the entry to the BCP, right? The building was constructed in 2009, and I would assume people moved in at that point. In terms of your question about whether the residents have been notified, there is a provision in our regulations that the owner is required to notify tenants of any indoor air results that exceed, I forget the exact language. It says, it exceeds health standards. But again, the data we have right now does not show that there's an exceedance in indoor air. I hear your comment and your concern about the sampling on the upper floors. That's certainly a comment that you can make, and we can talk to Department of Health about that and see if we can get that incorporated into the RAP. That's sort of the purpose of this, this public comment period.
Okay, but I guess so just to be clear, the residents haven't been notified because the samples that were taken in the garage didn't meet a threshold, to your understanding?
I don't know whether they have been notified. That notification is required to go from the owner, not from DEC. But I don't know whether there's been any communication between the owner and the tenants at this point. We did mail fact sheets to folks in the building. But again, I don't know, haven't heard anything specific from any occupants in the building.
Okay, I guess those are my questions.
Anyone else on the committee or the board?
Marty, you're muted.
Marty, you got to unmute yourself. There you go. Still not hearing you. Oh, now you're muted again.
Who's the owner?
There we go.
Sorry?
He asked who the
Can you
owner of
repeat
the
your
building
question?
was.
The owner of the building is, hold on, 34 Berry Street, LLC.
And who's the principal? Do you know?
I do not know that.
Anyone else? Yeah, I guess I would just amplify what Willis said. I have deep concerns for the residents of the building. We had, you're aware of, there were vapor intrusion issues in northern Greenpoint and Green and Freeman Street. Somewhat of a different scenario there. But I just, initially when the board received the notice, it was posted to Facebook, and there was a tenant who they currently live there, used to live there. They lived there at least for 6 years. And afterwards, they noted that their child, developed cancer, and I don't know, what type of cancer, et cetera, but But those types of things, just start, swirling in my head and for other people's. It's just, it's just very disturbing that it seemed it arose after, I guess over 6 years after the building's existence and tenants had occupied the building. I just like when the product is extracted from the wells, how is it, transported, out of the building? Is it put in drums, or how is that handled?
It's all through, it's piped, hard piped from the well into a recovery tank. And then that tank is periodically pumped out by contractors. And that tank is located in the parking garage.
We have a question on the chat. Mr. Dugan is asking who shoulders the cost for a brownfield cleanup, the developer or the state, and is there an estimate of how much it will cost?
So the remedy is implemented by the owner. The brownfield cleanup program does have some tax credit provisions in it. In this case, they would not be eligible for. There are two components of the tax credits. One is the site preparation tax credits, which is essentially the cost of the remediation. And those, I don't have the percentages off the top of my head, but they're eligible for recovering, some percentage, 25 or 30% of their costs through tax credits. The second component of the tax credits is tangible property. And that's related to development, but since the development here is already done, there are no tangible property credits available to them. And I'm sorry, I didn't catch the second part of that question.
Marie, you're muted.
Yeah, I know. He wanted to know how much it would cost.
So I believe the remedial action work plan has in it the proposed remedial costs. That's an appendix to the remedial action work plan. So again, if you go to that link on DEC info locator, and that's also available in the fact sheet that we sent to you, you can look at the remedial action work plan, and that should have the remedial costs in it. I don't have those numbers off the top of my head.
Okay. Any other questions? The other thing. Oh, sorry, Laura.
Yeah. So, what type of study is going to happen for this property and for these people who may have been whose health might have been impacted by the contamination?
I'm not sure what you mean. You mean a health study?
Yes.
So again, as I mentioned to Willis before, we did do indoor air sampling, and we did not find anything in the indoor air that exceeds the DOH criteria. So at this point, we don't have any evidence that there has been any impact to the indoor air or the air that folks breathe inside the building.
So there's already been a report. Steve mentioned that that there was a child who developed cancer. So how is the agency going to track these things? Is there going to be any attempt to reach out to the families, find out what's going on, basic survey?
That would be Department of Health purview. That's not part of the brownfield cleanup program. That would definitely be the health department would do any sort of health surveys related to
But
and
I would
tracking
think,
things like that.
I would think that that collaboration would be happening already, since there's contamination under, building where people live.
Well, again, Laura, there is an existing subslab depressurization system on the building. We did do indoor air sampling, which is the pathway for exposure for folks inside the building, and the indoor air sample results were clean.
It's still, to me, it still strikes me as very frightening stuff, and something that the agencies should make sure, due diligence, make sure that they're, asking questions and finding out about impacts. Because I don't have to tell you, I really don't believe that the way testing is done is up to snuff to begin with.
Jane, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have a response to, I think that the sampling that we do is very robust. I don't agree that the science is not up to snuff at this point. We've been, I think we're very confident in the data that we've collected at this site.
Laura, do you have anything more? Anyone else?
Steve, I just want to ask a clarifying question. Jane, you said that they did receive, or they are receiving credits as part of the brownfield cleanup program.
They are eligible to receive site preparation tax credits. Yeah.
Okay, it just seems insane that they would. Developer has housed people on top of the site for 10 years, without them clearly knowing what they're living on top of and charging, ridiculous amounts for rent, and that they're receiving a tax break from the state. And I realize that's not something that you have the power to change, but it just, this whole situation is really, it seems like there needs to be, aside from a cleanup of the toxins, there should be a serious action, legal action against the people who are responsible for this contamination and people living there unknowingly for a decade. So I don't know what the process is for that, but I'm glad we have some reporters on here, because I don't know. To me, it just seems like a pretty bad situation. Let's just say that, and needs to be exposed. My 2 cents.
I agree with that. It's really disturbing. And I guess I just asked the committee if, what further action we could take, or follow up from, on what we heard tonight. If we want to, reach out to other agencies like DOH, or, I don't know.
I think DOH should definitely be involved.
Well, I will tell you, DOH is involved, Laura, in the the investigation that was done. They've reviewed all of the data. They reviewed the work plans, and they've reviewed all the data that's been collected. So, the remedy that we're putting forward here, I think, is a robust remedy. We're working within the parameters of the brownfield cleanup program. They are what they are. It's a voluntary program. There are tax credit provisions that are, that are part of that program. I certainly understand the concern that folks have about the contamination at the site. But as I said, I think we're putting forth a very robust remedy here. The data does not indicate at this point that there's any exposure to people living in the building. So we're hopeful that this remedy will be effective in addressing the source and making sure that it continues to be safe for people to live in the building.
Someone put in the chat that the developer behind the LLC is Elcor, LCOR. That means anything to anyone? Thanks, Kevin, for putting that in there. All right. So anyone else have any thoughts?
There must be a human being that's
Yeah.
the principal of that organization. We should try to find out who that is. Hopefully the tenant or tenants in the building have access to a lawyer, so lawyers that sue damages they're suffering. I mean,
Well, should we have the board reach out to the developer? You know, just noting whether they, whether they've communicated with the tenants about what's going on. Or is that just kind of a fool's errand?
well, there's no harm in doing that, but we should also do it ourselves, I guess, or maybe in some way they could send a letter to communicate with the tenants in the building.
Yeah. All right. All right. Anything else? Anyone? Not seeing any more questions. All right. So, okay. Well, I guess that then we'll close out on that item. Jane, thanks again for presenting and addressing our questions. Now I guess we'll move
I'm not
on
sure
to.
if I have to stop sharing my screen or I'm not, I don't know if you guys are still seeing the screen. I don't know how to stop the sharing.
Yeah, we do still see it.
Maybe if I just, I mean, if you don't need me, I will disengage here and maybe that will free up the screen for you. I'm not sure. So
Yeah, I think we're good. I think, yeah, we're going to
Okay.
move on to the next item. So,
Okay, I'm going to leave the event and hopefully that will give the controls back to Delise.
okay.
All right, good night, everyone.
Good night, Jane. No, we're still seeing her screen, and we now need Kim. Are you going to present, or Lee?
Yeah, I mean, if I could have access to the tool of sharing my screen, that would be great. If not, I sent you a link
Okay.
to the presentation if you want to, if you have more access than I do.
Okay. Marie, which? Oh, wait, here she goes.
Somehow I can't get rid of it. Nope. It's stuck in some kind of a loop.
Are you able? I was on a WebEx this morning where I shared my screen. Are you able to give me access to the tools? Because I could maybe noodle around a little bit and get us up.
Okay, let me just try this. And don't disconnect my recording, because that's what happened before. When I find participant. It's not allowing me to do it. Assign privileges. Change role. I don't think I have everything back. It's not even giving me the host back.
Well, it says you're the host.
I know, but the control doesn't. The control doesn't say I'm the host.
So maybe if you go up to the top where on the very top of your screen says WebEx events and file, edit, share.
Yeah, that's why I went. I went through every one of those.
Can you assign privileges to panelists?
It won't do it. Doesn't say which panelists. It's not allowing me to pick them out.
And then if you hover over the lower part of your screen, can you go share content?
I did that.
And it won't.
It's just pulling this up as a screen. I don't know whose screen this is. I think I'm just stuck in with Miss O'Connell.
Right. Well, Kim, it is possible to do it, present without the slides, unfortunately, is it?
I mean, I guess we could go through the information. I prefer not to do it without the
Yeah,
slides.
let me see. Wait, let me see if,
We put like a link to the slides in the chat and everybody open them up and we just go through them together.
You want to do that? You have the enter the chat message.
I just put a link to the slides in the chat. If you can all access those, just click on that link and that'll give you access to the presentation.
Okay, it opened up for me. It opened, so.
Is there anybody that has a problem opening that? Can I just hear from folks on the
yeah, I'm getting there.
It's opening for me. Loading.
Yep, I got it too.
Cool. Yeah, I see a lot of people entering in as anonymous.
Thanks, Kim.
And krakens and beavers.
I think we got to get on for President Adams to get Zoom. This WebEx is really buggy.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Zoom is pretty easy to, and I also agree with you on WebEx. The DPS and National Grid also use WebEx, and it's always really wonky. All right, well, let's get started. And for those of you who cannot have access to this, like if you don't have access to a computer right now and you're calling in, or if you can't seem to open it for some reason, we can definitely email this link to you. It's available online for everybody to view, anybody of the public to view. And we put this together as like a update specifically for this particular meeting to update you all on where we are with the North Brooklyn fracked gas pipeline and liquefied natural gas expansion in Greenpoint. And the rate hike case where they're asking for more money to build all this stuff. So first of all, thank you to the Community Board Environmental Committee for inviting Sane Energy Project to present tonight. We love working with you guys. We kind of like launched our campaign at the January Community Board meeting with you all. And, you know, we're following up with some really scary stuff we heard from Jane. And we're also probably going to show you some pretty scary stuff, but what we have is we have some really clear action steps for all of us to take. So people power can defeat the bad stuff. So let's go. So agenda for this presentation on slide 2, we're going to go over just when we last saw each other. A lot of this was before COVID when we all were together. We're going to give you a refresher and an update on the project. We're going to talk about timelines of the construction and timelines of the rate case, and then some.
I got you now. You want to try that again,
Try.
Mr. Chesler?
Okay.
You want to try loading that up again?
Me or Kim?
Steve,
Okay.
if you have it, because I was able to get rid of O'Connell's. Yeah, it's not working for me. I tried to share the content and pull it up from the file, but it's not doing it.
Okay, well, let's go through it. Why don't we all individually pull this up on our own machines? And then, if you guys share notes from this meeting out with the public, please feel free to include this link to the presentation. So we'll just keep going just to respect everybody's time tonight. So slide 3, just a reminder, when we last saw each other, we all had a very vibrant January community board meeting where National Grid came and, wasn't very forthcoming with us, but we really were an excellent group of educated residents of North Brooklyn that asked very tough questions and really showed our power. And then the following month, there's an awesome picture of you all on the environmental committee. You passed a resolution against the pipeline, which was a very powerful news item. Slide 4 just shows you the folks from National Grid making their presentation and a couple of quotes that we pulled from the January community board video of them telling us that it wasn't this isn't really a pipeline and that it won't rupture and that they're doing excellent community outreach, which we knew all of those were not the truth. But we asked tough questions, and I think we were a really powerful group of people. And we are making headway on that because we've been continuing to organize together. Slide 5 shows an updated map of the pipeline route. So the last time that we saw each other, where I held up a big map at the community board meeting in January showing the evacuation zone around the pipeline, at that point we only had phase 4 and phase 5 on the map, but now we've worked with some pipeline analysts and we pieced together the entire route of the map from Brownsville through Bed-Stuy, Bushwick, Williamsburg, and Greenpoint. Just to give you a heads up on it's the official name of it for National Grid is called the Metropolitan Reliability Infrastructure, or the MRI, but us locals, we've dubbed it the North Brooklyn Pipeline. So when you hear either one of those, you know that that's the same project. Some of the main points why we want to shut it down, just to review again really quick, they did no public outreach, although they said that they did. We know that this project is a very strong case of environmental racism. It's going through predominantly Black and Brown and low-income communities who have historically always bared the burden of pollutive projects. We know that the rate hike that they're asking for is very unjust. They're asking for hundreds of millions of dollars in rate hikes to line their shareholders' pockets, where we would bear the burden of the environmental hazard, and none of that is really benefiting us. They're a shareholder-owned corporation that's based in the United Kingdom. That's National Grid. This gas, where they want to build a pipeline to, may also bring in liquefied natural gas trucking. So, that's currently illegal on New York City streets, but National Grid has applied for a variance to make an exception for them in our law, so they can make LNG trucking available. And LNG, again, I'm sorry for the acronym, is liquefied natural gas. Very dangerous product. And they want to be able to truck it to points in Long Island and Massachusetts. So using Greenpoint as a hub doesn't sound very healthy for any of us. Slide 7 shows where the current and planned construction is. So right now, they are in the process of constructing phase 4. And they're also asking for $124 million more to complete that phase right now. That goes from Flushing Avenue, and that's where I live. I live 2 blocks away from that construction, all the way up to Montrose Avenue. And they've been terrible neighbors building this pipeline the whole time, making incredible noise and dust. A lot of businesses have really lost business because of the construction. And then phase 5 is where they're asking for another $61 million to go through Williamsburg and Greenpoint to end at a liquefied natural gas facility that they have on Newtown Creek. They're asking for another $77 million for that. So it's just more money from our pockets on our bills to fill their shareholders. If you look at slide 8, that's a sort of an aerial shot of Greenpoint, where their current facility is. Their goal is to connect the pipeline to this facility, and just wanted to give you an idea of what their goal is and what that looks like. If you go to slide 9, right now they're building phase 4, which stops on Montrose Avenue, and we've been fighting so hard to say, don't, you can't stop, you can't finish this project. Now, if our campaign wins and we get them to shut down phase 5, we still have some work to do, because if they complete phase 4, they can still connect into their current distribution system on that darker blue line, that royal blue line. That also, it's a little bit of a roundabout through Williamsburg, but they'll be able to still get to that LNG terminal. So it's really important that we know of this project as not just the pipeline, but the end goal of this project is to expand that liquefied natural gas terminal. They've also are also continuing currently construction down in Brownsville, where they're trying to get around an old sewer line to build the beginning of this pipeline there that connects into a portion of their older distribution system. So we've been working very close with folks in Brownsville. They're an incredibly vibrant community, have amazing community gardens, and we're really building a resistance there. And many of them have come up to Greenpoint and Williamsburg and Bushwick to support us. And we're going to also, in turn, spend time in Brownsville supporting them in this struggle and connect to our communities. Lee, I'm going to hand it over to you here to go through where we are in the timelines and the regulatory stuff.
Sure. So yeah, if you're looking at slide 11, that first kind of timeline is around the construction. So as Kim mentioned, construction is currently happening in Bushwick as well as down in Brownsville. National Grid is looking to complete phase 4, 1 through 4, which, as Kim mentioned, could then connect into the rest of their system and gas could start flowing. They're hoping to do that by November. So they're plowing through right now, even though there's been all this opposition, and they do not have approval yet to recover what they've been spending so far on our rates in this year, in 2020. And then they're hoping to complete the next phase, phase 5, by the next year, by 2021, for the beginning of that winter season. And as Kim mentioned, they could get some of the LNG use still from phase 4, but our understanding is if they don't build phase 5, they can't get the full use of that expansion. But they could still get some of it into their system, that LNG expansion in Greenpoint. So then there's the regulatory, which has been quite an interesting process. So in order for National Grid to build this pipeline, they need to spend money and raise our rates to do that. And so there's 2 different paths that these rate cases can go down. The typical one is that the company will put forth a proposal, and then people that are parties in the rate case will participate in a confidential settlement negotiation. So that's what was happening last year in the fall, and that broke down very quickly because National Grid started holding customers hostage in order to get another bigger pipeline built, the Williams pipeline. So settlement broke down very fast, and we started this other track that a rate case can go down, which is a litigated track. It's only for 1 year. Normally settlement, they come out with a 3-year process. So like, this is the money we're going to spend over the next 3 years. A litigated case is only 1 year. And then there was this whole process, throughout December and January and February. Sane Energy got to cross-examine National Grid in evidentiary hearings. We filed final briefs that said that all of this infrastructure goes against the CLCPA for climate reasons, for environmental justice reasons. And we were pretty much expecting a decision in June. Because there was also this kind of parallel proceeding that got opened around this moratorium that National Grid did. And so we were expecting a decision in June based on this litigated case. And all of a sudden, National Grid and the Department of Public Service, which is kind of our representation from New York State, said, we want to go back to settlement. Even though we had litigated this whole case, we were expecting a decision. We want to go back to settlement. They said that, that COVID had maybe impacted this. We think the reason they want to go back to settlement is because they can see the writing on the wall that with the CLCPA coming down, that there's just so much opposition building against fracked gas that they're trying to get in as much as they can now before a lot of that stuff happens.
Lee, what's the CLPCA? Could you just tell people what that is?
Sure. Yeah. The CLCPA is the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act. It's, climate legislation that requires us to dramatically reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, to have more of our energy come from 100% renewable energy. And it's not good news for the gas companies because it pretty much says they need to change their business. So if you go to the next slide, slide 12. So since before in this whole process, it was mostly just Sane Energy, filing testimony against these projects. But so many people were really upset with the way this whole process has been happening and wanted to be a part of the conversation now that it's happening in confidential settlement negotiations, that we have a whole crew now. I wish we could talk about what's happening inside of these confidential settlement negotiations. Unfortunately, we can't, which is a whole nother issue, that these really shouldn't be confidential. But you should know that you have a lot of people now from your community who are now a part of these conversations and are fighting against these projects, including Newtown Creek Alliance, members of the No North Brooklyn Pipeline Coalition. We also have a lot of great allies who have been involved in these cases before. So, know that we are on the inside fighting for you all, but the only way that we can get anything really from settlement is if there's a lot of public pressure. So that's kind of what our next couple slides look at. How do we build pressure so that we can hopefully get an outcome that we want from this process? I would say one major concern of ours is that this settlement process is not going to get a result in this rate case anytime soon. And in the meantime, National Grid is just building phase 4, which we'll kind of get to. So if you look at the next slide, slide 13, these are our targets Obviously, if you know anything about politics in New York, you know, Governor Cuomo really is the decision maker and all these kind of things. So he oversees the Public Service Commission, which would be the one that would approve any kind of settlement that came out of these negotiations. So it'll be something called a joint proposal that the Public Service Commission would have to approve. John Rhodes is the head of the Public Service Commission. And also Mayor de Blasio is a target because I'll talk about this in a second. There's a lot of city permits that the pipeline has that we're hoping to get pulled, but also New York City is a party in this rate case. And arguably, they're probably the third most important party after the company, the state, and then New York City. And if you look at the testimony that they've filed ahead of time, I can't say how they've been acting in settlement, but what they filed ahead of this has been really disappointing. We've heard a lot of talk from the mayor, but they're really not opposing any of this infrastructure, you know, prior to entering the settlement. So they're a very important party in the rate case, and they've been pretty quiet up until this point on this infrastructure. So if you look at 14, what can you do? We currently have a petition going around to the mayor and New York City, asking them to revoke any permits for the pipeline. We know there has to be things like DOT permits, and we're hoping to get a clear list that we can talk about through the rate case process. And then as far as the liquefied natural gas goes, they, one, have to grant that variance. So there's no way that National Grid can build that LNG facility out without approval from the city. So we're asking in this petition for them to revoke any permits that are allowing construction right now of the North Brooklyn pipeline, and to reject any future permits around the LNG vaporizers and the LNG trucking. If you go to slide 15, we do have an event. I don't know, Kim, do you want to talk about this event? You're on mute still.
Thanks. A couple of more next steps that we could do if the community board would write another letter, maybe directed toward the city, coming from the community board, saying that the community board opposes this fossil fuel infrastructure in our community. Help us reach elected officials or other community boards. Like if you have connections to other community boards through your coalition. I don't know like how community boards are structured if you guys all talk with each other, but it would be wonderful to be able to reach out to the other community boards along the entire pipeline down to Brownsville. And then on Sunday, we're all going to meet in Cooper Park for a socially distanced, kid-friendly teach-in about the pipeline. We're going to bring some really cool art, and it's going to be a really fun event from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. We'll meet in the center of the park, and then we'll start from there. A couple of our allies from Brownsville are going to come up and want to meet folks and say hi and build community. And then we also have this really cool bioremediation project called Mud Balls that one of our volunteers from Sane Energy is a big community garden advocate, and she's been working with bioremediation for generations, and she has a cool, fun project if we want to participate in that. And then if you want to bring your bicycle, I'm gonna take folks down to the National Grid terminal on the Newtown Creek, just so we can like see what it looks like. And once you see it and you sort of smell it, it makes it very real. And that's something that we don't want to see expanded. We want to see that facility be retired and turn into, a public space, a public park, or a place to have battery storage for renewable energy. I mean, there's so many things that we can vision. So it's going to just be a really nice, easy, fun Sunday. So hope to see you guys in Cooper Park. And then I'll just keep going. And then we also have a hotline for the No North Brooklyn Pipeline. It's 866-739-8818. And it's bilingual. And it's a direct line to Governor Cuomo's office. So just call up and log the calls. We've had over, I think, like 700 calls so far logged saying that I'm, a local resident and I oppose this pipeline. They'll take your zip code. Have a nice day. The operator is very friendly. She's already really gotten to know us very well over the years of calling stuff. And then also just contact us anytime. There's my and Lee's email address. My telephone number is up there. And also Catherine Thompson is in Margot Spindelman from the No North Brooklyn Pipeline Coalition are doing really great work on our Instagram, and we have an email address up now, so nonbkpipeline@gmail. You can contact us anytime. We love building out the team, so participating and shutting this down with y'all.
All right. Thanks so much. That was an amazing presentation. And I want to commend you guys for the work that you're doing, to try and better the community and ward off all this, in my opinion, very negative, projects and proposals. It just seems antithetical to what we need right now. Just one question. Yes, I guess you did it. I had a question about if the board was to issue another letter to the mayor, essentially regarding the rate case, but was there anything else that just I think it's the main thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, getting the mayor to sort of urge the city of New York the city of New York is like a party to the rate case, and that's what they call the people who file to participate in the process. They just call us parties. So we have a little joke. We're like, "Woo, it's a party," But it's so the city of New York is a party to the case, and I think it's the Office of Sustainability is like the overarching people that are representing the city, and then the attorneys for the city called Couch White are also parties to the case. So I think getting like a letter together, we could give you some key people to write it to. You could write it, directly to the mayor, or we can give you some other additional people that maybe to CC. But just saying we're concerned about this project. We really hope that the city stands with the community in opposition to this, and we don't want rate hikes. We don't want more fossil fuels. We're already burdened by fossil fuel, historically, and time to move to renewables. I think that could really go a long way with the city, is just showing that there's support from the community.
Okay. If we were to get this together in September, would that the reason is that we need another round to draft a letter, approve it, and then get the full board to approve it. And I don't think they're going to convene again until September. So
I mean, I think we're still going to probably be in negotiations in September. So the sooner the better. But I mean, if September is like what you guys can do, that would be great. We're going to try to deliver the petition in late August, early September. Depending on our goal is to get 25,000 signatures.
Okay.
So if we could maybe double up and make that a really super cool event, a delivery of a letter and the petitions, that might be kind of cool.
Okay.
But,
all right. So maybe we'll come back to discussing the letter. But first, back to your presentation. I just had a quick little, technical question about the variance that National Grid. I was trying to clarify whether they've actually obtained the variance for trucking liquefied natural gas, or they still need to get that.
They still need to get that. And that's something that we can really tell. That's like a thing that we can really get ahead of the city and say I mean, they know that we know about this variance, but that's where we can really push and say, do not approve that. Because if they don't get that approved, it flubs up their plans and keeps us all safe.
Right. Okay. All right. Any committee members, board members have questions, comments? No. Okay. open it up to everyone. Anyone else have a question or comment about what's going on with this pipeline? I have to say, what you described also about the settlement process is really disturbing and aggravating that that's allowed to happen behind closed doors. I mean, it's just really, really awful. That's, I feel like something with the new legislature, they got to pick that up. It's just, what's the point of having the commission and the hearings, et cetera, and then, and
Yeah,
then,
we agree. The process is very wonky, and it's been a huge learning curve for all of us. But like the nice thing is, like Willis and Lisa have joined as parties, and Catherine and Margot, and it's been like we've all like really supported each other through learning at the same time as building our power and asking tough questions. So we're figuring it out, but it's definitely, I wouldn't say that this is a process that's easy for the public to engage in our system. And that's a democracy issue, right? This is our energy system. Energy is a human right. Like, we all have seen the terror of what happens when people get their power turned off, medical issues, health issues, food issues. This is a real problem. So.
Yeah, veering a little bit away from this, but connected, just, you mentioned the climate leadership, act related to, climate, dealing with the climate crisis. Are you getting any feeling that the tides are turning, in the legislature now with another new wave of assemblymen and senators coming in, that, there'll be a major shift, and it's just, it's beyond the time is now to get us to meet. What is the goal? Like, is it like a certain percentage by like 2030 and another percentage of, getting beyond fossil fuels by like 2040 or 2050?
Yeah, the goal of the CLCPA, the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, is a project of New York Renews Coalition. So if you want to learn more, New York Renews has a really awesome event coming up on the 19th that you can plug into and get active on pushing, the actual, like, the bill was passed, but if we don't implement all the things that the bill says, we're not going to be able to reach our goals. And we're so far behind right now on reaching our renewable energy goals in New York. So I really encourage folks to get active and join that event on the 19th and figure out how we can really push our state agencies and our legislature to actually, operationalizing these sort of renewable energy shifts that we need.
Yeah, I saw an interview with Elon Musk, the head of Tesla, and sorry, my dog, I don't know what's going on with my dog. And he was talking, just about renewable energy, and he, in very simplified terms, he was saying that just with solar, basically, if you created solar panels, basically you could fill it. Basically, takes like 100 square miles to create all the solar panels needed to basically create energy to power. I can't remember if he said the United States or the world, and then the battery capacity just within a smaller amount. I just feel like, it just. But you're saying there's just so many things, so many obstacles. Obviously the energy companies and other ways, but it just. I don't know. It's just amazing. People are just taking us off a cliff, with current wave. Yeah.
Our sort of end goal with Sane Energy Project is just to overthrow these corporate-owned utilities and build public power. We think that we should be able to own our own system. So we're not paying all this money just so we pay shareholders. Like, we should be able to own and share renewable energy with our neighbors and build a more resilient grid. You know,
Yeah.
energy efficiency has a big part to play here, where if we weatherize our homes, we're not using as much energy. There's a lot we can do. There's a lot of options. So, you know, I believe like the new folks that are coming into the legislature, I feel really inspired by. A lot of them run on a campaign with public power as one of their talking points. So I think like the vibrant energy that we need is going to be really exciting coming forward. So I'm looking forward to that.
Great. Okay. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Okay. Willis had to sign off, so Large, just you and me. Oh,
Everybody's leaving us.
yeah. So I was going to say, so I'll draft a letter for our next meeting in September, and
That's exciting.
have it together so we can, get the language right and vote on it, and then get it to the full board. So, all right. So, hey, well, thanks so much again for coming in and doing the work you guys are doing. It's amazing. Community is so grateful to you, what you're doing. And it's just, I see it's just expanding, beyond North Brooklyn. So it's really cool. So I guess we'll see you guys soon. That
Yeah.
Sunday thing in Cooper Park sounds great.
Cool.
So,
All right. Thanks so much for inviting us.
yeah,
have a
all
great
right.
day,
And thanks everyone for attending. And Marie, thanks a lot for getting everything going here. So, all right, guys, have a really good day.
Later.
Everyone else too. Bye bye.